There's an awful lot going on lately. In the news, sure, but I mean, on a really personal level, like communism, socialism, those things have come to mean very personal things to hordes of people that don't really know what a thought is, so I can't say that it's because, I can't use any words that insist that this is an organic idea or anything good, but, a while ago I heard someone make the case that our government's basically a totalitarian one, and I largely agree. You know, their political opinions, or their political regurgitations are becoming more and more part of everyday life. You know, I don't ask, but more and more every day, especially around, you know, it's almost Thanksgiving, whatever, the holiday season, certainly, I'm hearing more and more, oh, you know, I disown my family for political reasons. When I remember thinking over a decade ago how hard it was to get support because I was cutting my own family off for straight up abuse of all sorts, right? Like, I got every flavor in my household. That's a reason to cut off your family. And hell, it was over 10 years ago, but now you fast forward to like, I'm not talking to my family anymore because I think they voted for the wrong person. That's a ridiculous attitude to have. Which makes this video important, at least I think so. Because I don't like politics at all. I think they're all a bunch of fucking monkeys. I mean, whoever is in charge of anything, I hope that they do a good job and they make it just a little bit less shitty. By and large, I don't think they're going to. Maybe sometimes some people about some things. I got my fingers crossed for that, but that's about it. And people don't like that. You know, you can't even have a reasonable objection to things. And you can't even reasonably opt out for all the best reasons, right? For the sake of your own sanity, even. Right? They're like, well, you're a monster. Oh my god, you're not getting me what I want. And you know what? That is exactly why socialism and communism never work. And I've never quite heard it put this way before, which is why I bother to say that. Not that many people will bother listening, but bless you, dear 4 to 6 listeners of mine. Thank you for joining me. And please, repeat my statements without crediting me, because I basically have nothing to gain or nothing to lose at this point. But I digress. See, it occurred to me a while ago. It hit me quite profoundly, even though I'm ashamed to admit that. It was such a profound realization, but at the same time, I just felt so fucking dumb over it. I was ashamed of myself. Because it's obvious, really. See, they don't want socialism in of itself. They don't want socialism or communism because they stand behind it. See, these libtards, these left idiots, they're not liberals. They're not the people that represent the left politically. That just means they're for expansion of ideas and exploration. That means possibly editing laws. That means contemplating the way things are and making sure that it's the best. Because you don't want to strictly adhere to anything. That is how you get stagnation. And that can affect everything, everyone. That's infrastructure, society, finances. You don't want to be stagnant. You need growth. So the left's responsibility is to try and make sure that that growth goes in a good direction. They have failed abhorrently for the last several fucking generations. Okay, liberals, that's not you! You're just fucktarded and selfish. That doesn't make you a leftist, it makes you an idiot. We basically don't have any leftists. The right is the left, but they're busy being the right, too. Because No one else is doing anything. Like, in contrast to that was supposed to be the right party, the Republicans, and their job was to adhere to tradition to make sure that we don't lose our values. Right now they're like busy doing both because of the catastrophically retarded, idiotic, ill-thought-out, ill-reasoned, ill-conceived, and then aborted common sense of everybody else. There is one party. Everyone else is a fucking idiot. That is why socialism never works, because these are the conditions of socialism. There's a small handful of people that are trying to cling on to their sanity and their reason and the things that they cherish, and everyone else is just this big, fat, obese, overgrown baby bird with its mouth hanging wide open. They eat everything and produce nothing but shit. So let's back up a little bit now that I've gotten that out of my system. I feel great, by the way. The goal of the people today that call themselves liberals or on the left is not to have an organized society. It is not to make a point. Their points don't matter to them. They don't care about them. That's why the goalposts change all the time. They don't have any sort of vision for the future. Other than they're not working, they are safe, and they are provided for. Once again, like a big, weird, worthless baby. Just a humiliated baby. Nothing good about the infantile stages. They're just like adult children, right? Disney adults, right? Something along that category. They don't have political thoughts. They have demands. They have utmost selfishness and a desire to be lazy, disguised as political points. See, they don't want anything. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to work. They don't want to stand for anything. The only reason that they say any of that stuff is so that they can have some amount of political standing, because, drumroll, it gets them what they want. Which is free stuff. Everything not working. That's all. That's why communism never works. Communism / socialism, whichever one. God help us all. That just means their arguments succeeded. Enough people listened to them, fell for them, were taken by them, and there wasn't enough pushback from the singular, thinking, rational party that's trying to do anything from the actual workers, right? They were overtaken one way or another by these useless eaters. And so now they have the stage. Now they have, let's say, the proverbial scepter, right? What do? They don't know what to do. They never wanted to work. They didn't want to do anything. They always expected everyone else to do everything for them. When they're sitting there arguing, they're not arguing for rights. They don't care about the rights. They don't. And that's the lie. It doesn't matter what they say. Nothing that they say matters to them. It's just about getting stuff for free so that they don't have to work. They just want their way. There isn't a political agenda. It's a means to an end. They don't mean anything. All of their symbols, all of their outrage, all of their mission statements, all of their organizations, they don't mean anything. Every single one of them is a facade, so that they can create the illusion that they are politically valid, so that they're reasonably valid, philosophically valid if you want. They will make emotional plays. They tantrum. They'll try and pull heartstrings. They don't have hearts. They try and make logical arguments. They don't have any logic, because it's not the point. That's why everything falls apart, because there's nothing real about it. They just want to be fat and eat, and they want to be lazy. They just want other people's stuff, because they decided they just don't want to work. That is modern-day liberalism. That is communism, and why it always fails, because it's made of nothing. It's a fantasy. A fantasy that they themselves never put any true substance into, because there isn't any. It's just a whole bunch of deluded assholes trying to get free stuff because they don't want to work. I've repeated that several times, and I've hoped that you've noticed, because that is the left today in a nutshell. It's not the classic left. It's not the philosophical left. Those last existed in like the 60s and the 70s. That's the last time they were organically occurring, and that was the whole like revolution. They used to write beautiful songs about it. Now you get some sort of autistic fart from the left when they left in quotes when they write music. Because, oh, everything's equal and everything is whatever. It's because they want something without having to earn the reward. Because that's just too much for them. Life is just too hard for them. They don't know what a problem is, and they don't want to know. They're thoroughly useless. Now, that's unfortunate, and I hope they change, but hell, they have been doing this for so long now, and they have been excusing and illusioning and delusioning and fantasizing and making shit up and doing the worst possible things that you can imagine just to have their own way. When you give it to them, they don't know what to do. That's why it always fails, because they don't know how to work. They don't know how to hold office. They don't know what the fuck to do. We're seeing that play out right now. They don't know how to budget. They don't know what money is. They don't know where it comes from. They don't care. They don't want to know. They have no idea how to generate any wealth. All that they know is that the wealth is there, and they want it. That is why it always fails, because it is not an ideology. There is none. There's no philosophy. There is no substance. There is only want. There is only excuses. There is only out-of-control, infantile emotions. That is what communism is. And if you ask me, it is not organically occurring. It is a punishment, basically from God. I think that there has to, or whatever controls things to you, right? The mysterious other thing, the mysterious arbiters and watchers of fate. If anything, hell, they're spiritual, right? If they wanted that to make any sense, they would, but I can promise you, you cannot have a conversation with them about anything, because there is no goal other than getting their own spoiled way. They need a spanking, right? They need to be spanked, and they need to go hungry for once, and they need to work until they can eat again. That would solve a whole lot of the problems in this world. A whole lot of, and if you're not supposed to be here, you need to get your ass back home. Because we don't have magic dirt. Okay, I don't know why people are so fucking convinced that crops aren't growing on their land and they want to come over and they want to eat ours. Okay, not a good time. All these little blue-haired sons of bitches out here, get them to pick the fucking crops. You make them learn, and you make them learn well. You better not step on them. You better not pull out the wrong ones, because that's what you're going to be fucking eating. Because you had the nerve to destroy everything. You know what a true liberal does? You know what they do? You know what their calling card is for being a true liberal? They cherish Republicans. They cherish the way things are. The nuclear family unit. They cherish it. You know why? It is the backbone. It is the yin to their yang. It is their reason for existing. The cornerstone and the crux of all of their arguments, and they understand that. They understand what building is. Because they understand what they criticize. And what they live to differentiate from. They realize there is no existence without the nuclear family unit, and that it must be protected. Now, you don't often see that in their speech, but they know deep down that if that's not true, because I've seen them do it, you can see them admit it, and there should always be a degree of protection that each has for the other in a harmonious environment. We have not seen that on this earth for a very long time. Last time it was seen, I don't know. I don't believe that I really ever have. I think they've sung about it a bit, and I've probably heard some of those songs, but during the revolution it was mostly the wanting to break free. Wanting to break free from heavy chains of Christianity and all of this expectation that somehow bred the nonsense that we have today. And so I'm going to leave those two things together, that this is what communism and socialism actually is, and this is what a liberal and liberal thought actually is. It's the desire for freedom. It's supposed to be a companionship, a push and a pull going forward. Most people alive today have never seen that. That's a very, very sad thing.